In a bustling café tucked between tall glass towers of a global city, a young woman named Eliza moved with quiet efficiency, balancing trays, refilling cups, and offering smiles to strangers who often never looked twice at her. She was a barista, but not the kind who simply pressed buttons on a machine. She had a sharp mind, a gift for languages, and a heart that carried dreams much larger than the confines of her apron. And on that snowy morning when the bell above the café door jingled, she had no idea her life was about to change forever, because the men who walked in wore nothing particularly flashy. A tailored suit, yes, but his hair was slightly windswept, his expression thoughtful, his laptop bag worn at the edges as though it had traveled with him across continents, and though other customers barely noticed him, Eliza, with her instinctive attentiveness, felt something different. He sat by the window, opened his sleek silver laptop, and glanced up only once, long enough to see her approach with her notepad in hand. Yet the moment she greeted him with warmth, something shifted. His gaze lingered, as if measuring her, as if recognizing a spark most people would ignore, and she, unaware of his identity, simply asked what he'd like to drink, to which he responded with hesitation, as if English wasn't the language he preferred. He muttered softly in French, asking for an espresso, and without missing a beat, Eliza replied fluently, her words smooth, her accent effortless, making his eyes widen ever so slightly, though she didn't notice, because moments later another customer at the next table dropped his phone, muttering angrily in Mandarin about his order being wrong, and without hesitation Eliza turned, apologized in perfect Mandarin, corrected the mistake, and calmed the man's frustration, leaving the suited guest by the window to stare at her in surprise, his fingers frozen above his keyboard. As the café grew busier, the test of her gift only deepened, for a pair of tourists from Spain wandered in, struggling with the menu, and Eliza guided them in clear, melodic Spanish, recommending the café's pastries with such enthusiasm that they laughed with gratitude, and soon after, when a German student nervously asked if Wi-Fi was free, she answered him in German, leaving him speechless with delight, and when a couple from Italy wanted directions to a gallery, she responded in lyrical Italian, while later still, a Middle Eastern businessman tapped her arm to ask something in Arabic, and she nodded, offering him directions and even a blessing in his tongue, leaving him smiling as if he'd found a friend in a foreign land. All of this unfolded within an hour, as if the café were a stage and Eliza its star performer, weaving 6 languages seamlessly into her daily work, not realizing that every exchange was watched intently by the man in the suit, whose coffee grew cold as he forgot to drink it, so absorbed was he in the realization that the young barista before him possessed a talent that global companies paid millions to harness. Eliza, however, saw none of this. She saw only the endless shift ahead, the ache in her feet, the dream of studying linguistics at university, a dream that remained out of reach because money was scarce and life had been unkind, her father long gone, her mother working nights as a seamstress, her younger brother in need of school fees. So she carried on, not out of ambition but necessity, telling herself each morning that if she just worked hard enough, life might someday reward her efforts, never suspecting that the man in the corner, the one who seemed like any other weary traveler, was in fact Adrian Cross, a billionaire CEO whose companies spanned continents, whose boardrooms were filled with powerful voices, whose decisions influenced the markets of nations, and yet who had never once been surprised by a stranger the way he was that morning. For as he watched her slip effortlessly from language to language, he saw not just skill but authenticity, a rare ability to connect across boundaries, to bridge divides, and in her humility, she did not play the part of someone showing off, she simply helped, quietly, naturally, as though kindness itself was her language, and this struck him more deeply than any corporate negotiation ever had. So much so that when she returned to his table to ask if he needed anything else, he closed his laptop, slowly, studied her face, and began a conversation that would alter her world, though she could not yet know it, answering him politely, unaware that her ordinary shift was turning into the first step of an extraordinary story destined to sweep her into a life she had never dared to imagine.